extremely lax and do not reflect the severity of the crime. Today I'm going to talk to you about 3 different points, each supporting this claim. First, a comparison of the DUI laws with stricter laws in other countries, the problem of repeat offenders, and the hundreds of deaths that continue to occur here annually. Now let us compare the consequences enforced in South Carolina with those enforced in other countries around the world. In South Carolina, the BAC is .08. A person facing their first, second, or third offenses may or may not serve time. For a first-time offender, jail time is often traded with community service, and in any case, the said offender may plead to a lesser charge. It's also not uncommon for an individual to wait for their court date for a period of several years or months as a tactic to defer their conviction. And then once they're convicted, their penalties rely heavily upon the judges that they're appointed to and how good their lawyer may be in cheating the system. So when can a person in South Carolina expect a guaranteed punishment for driving under the influence? Well, as is stated on drivinglaws.org, a person facing their 4th DUI offense will face permanent license suspension and a minimum of 3 years in jail. Now you may be thinking, that sounds pretty harsh. They're going to lose their license forever. But remember, this person has risked their life and the lives of every other individual on the road with them on 4 different occasions. In South Africa, on the other hand, they do things a little differently. An article titled Strict DUI Laws on MSN reports that in South Africa, an offender can face 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine. Even more so, their blood alcohol content maximum is .05 as compared to our .08. And Japan likewise is strict. An article titled Strict DUI Laws in Japan by Leah Waldron states that a first-time offender can face 15 years in prison, and these years often involve forced labor, and furthermore, their maximum BAC is .03 as compared to our .08. So in South Carolina, punishment for DUI is ambiguous and it's not guaranteed, while in both South Africa and Japan, punishments are guaranteed and they are unavoidable. And that brings me to the next main point, that DUI repeat offenders are too common in South Carolina. The U.S. Department of Justice released an article by M.S. Scott in 2006 titled Drunk Driving, which states that anywhere from 1/3 to 3/4 of drivers who are arrested for drunk driving have already been convicted of this offense at one point in their life. So to put that in perspective, if 50 people are arrested for drunk driving, 15 to 37 of them have already been arrested at some point in their life for this crime. Mothers Against Drunk Driving, or MAD, which I'm sure you've all heard of, reports that in South Carolina in 2011, there were 14,148 third-time offenders and 1,968 fifth-time offenders. With that in mind, consider this fact that MAD also provides. An average drunk driver has driven drunk 80 times before their first arrest. Just think how many times a 3rd, 4th, or 5th-time offender has driven drunk on our roads in South Carolina before they were even caught. And repeat offenders mean this. There are more opportunities for accidents and fatalities to occur on our roads every day. Hundreds of people continue to die annually in South Carolina because someone chose to drive under the influence. For this point, I'll give some of the statistics regarding DUI fatality